It's finally time to discuss who to pick. Welcome back to Corky Gachas, and in this video, I am going to touch on the Golden Thread banner and specifically who to pick from the respective pools, right? Thread 1, 2, and 3. And the reason is because I see a lot of people asking it just within my Discord comment section below, and also the general Discord itself. So many people have been asking. I thought that a lot of people are skipping this banner, but apparently I am wrong. So for this video, it's not going to touch on whether you should pull. That is already a done deal. We are going to assume that you have already pulled. If you want to see my recommendations on whether to skip or actually put on this banner, check out the card in the top right hand corner. But for this video, I'm going to discuss from a perspective of future content as well as also your current team, because it's not just about the future all the time, right? Because we have to balance out clearing content right now and also in the future. So this is going to be very specific to what kind of a box you have, but I'm going to discuss that specific conditions for you to make that decision easier for yourself. Okay, so first one, we are going to have the Golden Thread Banner 1 or Golden Thread 1. So within this pool itself, you are going to have 3 plant units: Ruvis, Sotheby, and Ununli. So the Afflictors itself is not a concern, it's just all plant type. And first up, going into Ruvis profile, you can see very nice I2 art, but that's not what we are concerned with. Ruvis is an extremely strong AoE DPS user, which is mental type, and also notably, right, it's not just whole DPS, it's also with a control factor of Petrify, which is extremely strong. Petrify is quite insane if you know how to play around it. Also not the most difficult to play around it, to be fair. And also her I3 have a support factor whereby the whole team, right, all of the plant units are going to have the Circle of Life, which increases the sustain by a lot. So this is her main appeal. Now, when it comes to whether you should pick Ruvis, I think that one of the factors you should consider is whether you have Changling. So if you do not have Changling, I think that Ruvis is definitely one of the top picks, given the fact that Ruvis can fill in the role of a hyper carry, and also notably, right, because when it comes to plant type content, right, although there is not the most plant type content, there is also not the most plant type hyper carries. There's only now Ruvis as well as Changling. In the future, even to 1.6, there is no new plant type unit. So this is also a reason why plant type carry can be very valuable if you think about it from that line, right? So I would definitely recommend Ruvis for those people. However, if you have already gotten Changling or you're planning to actually pull for Changling, then I think that Ruvis isn't as recommended, given the fact that Changling can already help to clear the difficult content. You don't really need control that much if you already have a strong, crazy hyper carry like Changling. So this is just my opinion. Next, we are going to talk about Sotheby. So Sotheby, right? Of course, we know that Sotheby, as of this point, a lot of people think that she is just Jessica's sidekick or Changling's sidekick. So when you want to pick Sotheby, right, she is very underrated as a healer. I think that her heal itself, right, can be considered AP generous with the fact that it lasts for 2 rounds as compared to other users that only last for 1 round or immediately. So this is something to consider when you look at Sotheby purely as a healer standpoint. And the debuff to provide the poison stacks, right, it's not really that important by itself. The damage is not that significant also. So if you just look at her by herself, she is not an optimal choice. So why would you want to pick Sotheby? So you would want to pick Sotheby if you do not at least have 2 healers now. So Limbo content now is revolved, of course, around 2 teams. You guys know you need to have at least 2 healers. So if you do not have that, you do not have Balloon Party, you don't have Medicine Pocket, you don't have 2 Fairy, either 2 of those, then I think that Sotheby can really be that help that you need to be a healer. By herself, like I mentioned, of course not the best, but this is a game whereby we need to fulfill roles before characters. So if you do not have 2 healers, you're going to struggle a lot. And Limbo content is the main way for you to get pool currency as a free-to-play player. So definitely quite mandatory. If you don't have 2 healers yet, I would really suggest going with Sotheby over the 2 other options. Of course, if you are planning to raise some other low rarity healers, that is also fine. You can actually raise Lassos. It's not going to be the biggest deal in the super long run, right? Because 3-star units do not really require the most investment. However, if you really want to invest in a higher star unit, you are not interested in low rarity, go for Sotheby. That's the first reason. Second reason is if you already have 2 healers, but you are playing a Changling team. So you are playing Changling, you're playing Jessica, you want to have the optimal Changling team, which I honestly do not think that it is really mandatory. But if you really want to increase the potential of Jessica, of Changling team, definitely you can pick Sotheby. So these are the 2 reasons. By herself, not the best, but if you want to complement Changling or if you lack 2 healers, you do not have 2 healers yet, absolutely I would recommend you to pick Sotheby. Next one is going to be Ununli. So this is what I consider the optimal choice if you do not lack anything. Okay, if you have the Golden Thread 1 now and you do not lack anything, you just want to have a good unit based on the stats itself, based on the kit itself, Anan Lee is for you. She is one of the best support units out there even till now, and the reason why is because she has this buff over here, right, which is similar to Soneto buff, last 2 rounds and only uses 1 card. So damage buff as well as damage taken reduction in 1 card. Very, very valuable. Also why 5-star Soneto is that good. But if you have Anan Lee, straight away you power creep Soneto in that way. And of course, this is not just her main factor, right? Just for this buff, she's not that good. But the reason why she is good is because she has this Insight 1 whereby it switches from break time and exorcism time. And the main thing is going to be exorcism time, whereby the rightmost incantation plus 1 star. You think about it, if you have 1 card at 1 star, it goes to 2 star straight, you saved 1 card, right? If you go to 2 star to 3 star, you save 2 cards. And this is without you doing anything every alternate round. So this is a lot of the AP that you could potentially save from moving cards, etc, etc. Free cards is always going to be good. And it also goes in line with the shuffle mechanic, whereby you are able to swap out the Anan Lee cards for other people cards. If you got a 3-star buff card and you don't need it, shuffle it using 25 of those Verton Muxi. You're able to get either a DPS card of your main carry, or you're going to get a debuff card like Beacon. So generally, this is extremely good mechanic, and not to mention this mechanic is being doubled up when you have her ultimate. If you have her ultimate, you are going to be able to also enjoy this for 2 extra rounds when you use her ultimate. So honestly, she is pretty OP even until now, and she does quite a bit of DPS as well. You can see the multipliers are not low, her stats are very decent also. So I would say for people that are not lacking anything, Anan Lee will be first. So this is my recommendations for pool 1. Going into pool 2, we have a bit more variety, but technically you could consider them only having 3 units, because the first one I want to touch on is New Babel. No one should pick New Babel unless you are trying to meme or you are trying to challenge yourself, because up until now, she is still considered one of the weakest 6-star units till date, although she is released from the game launch. So New Babel herself really don't get that much love from Bluepop, and I really don't know why, but regardless, she might be buffed in the future. As of now, she is not going to be considered as a unit that I would even recommend for you guys. The second one I'm going to touch on is going to be the first unit over here, right? Centurion. So for Centurion, she is a god since game launch, but of course right now, people are looking a lot more at Melania, given the fact that she has really stolen the spotlight. She can do a lot of single target DPS in content that requires AoE. Not as good, but still quite notable, quite good, because of the fact that her ramp up is going to bring about quite a lot of DPS increase at the later stages or later rounds. And also, you can use single target powers to actually clear AoE focus content as well. So that's why a lot of people do not really look at Centurion with the same tinted glasses to say that she is the absolute god of the game anymore. But that said, she is still very strong with the fact that you can play her in 2 ways. You can play it with not spamming ultimate and just using her spells, because with her Muxi, right, for every Muxi, she's going to deal 6% extra damage. So 5 Muxi is 30% damage dealt, which means that she can play with full Muxi all the time, just having the ultimate card but you don't use it. The other one is going to be cycling the ultimate and just having all of these cards, right, to be able for her to gain Muxi. So once she gains Muxi, she's able to cycle again to her ultimate. So this is a cycling method versus the non-cycling method. Very flexible. Her damage is quite insane as well. So really, I think that you should pick Centurion if you are looking at her and you have already missed the Melania banner. So Melania banner is only going to return, or Melania is going to be added into the standard pool only in 1.4. We are only in 1.2 by the way, and every patch is 42 days. We are 2 months away from Melania, and even then you cannot guarantee that you get Melania because there is no Melania focus banner. It's a 4v1, right? So 1 out of 4 you're going to get Melania. I don't think a lot of people pull that specifically to target Melania, so you really cannot guarantee that you are able to get a Beast Afflictor's carry from now until then. Which is why I say if you do not have a beast type carry, I would definitely recommend you to go with Centurion over here. She is still very good, like I mentioned, right? In fact, I would say she's one of the better ones and one of the best ones you can pick from this golden thread itself. So Centurion, top pick over here, right? Still very strong DPS, although on the single target side a bit lacking. But for general content, if you are not able to clear Limbo right now, she's definitely going to be able to help you. If you're Melania, please do not pick Centurion, not worth your time. Next one is going to be Medicine Pocket. Medicine Pocket, she is a very strong healer. However, she has a lot of problems as well. Notably with her debuff card, the damage dealt, damage taken increase, right? It's really stacking with a lot of common debuffers such as Beacon, such as in the future Charmaine, which is also Beast Afflictors, and also the Baby Blue and the likes of it. So really, I think that this card is a main problem, but do not take lightly of her fact to sustain your whole team with sturdiness, because sturdiness is very needed in higher difficulty content. Minus 25% damage taken is huge, so definitely don't underlook that, while at the same time providing mass healing. So healing wise is her strong suit, and also notably, right, her ultimate can gain Muxi, so she is able to also use this and also gain Muxi, which means she can cycle this control factor a bit better. However, if you already have 2 fairy and you have one other healer like Burn Party, or you have the Sotheby Changling team, right, I don't recommend you to go for Medicine Pocket at all. I don't think she's going to be that much needed if you have 2 fairy. Quite sad that 2 fairy completely power creep her, but that is what it is. So if you already have 2 fairy, definitely don't go for her. If you do not have 2 healers similar to Sotheby, she is better than Sotheby when you just look at a healing perspective, when you look at a character perspective. So more the more you should pick her if you do not already have 2 healers, and if you do not have 2 fairy, you might also want to consider picking her as your 2nd or 3rd healer. Next is going to be Eternity. So Eternity is one of the lesser recommended ones within this pool, simply because Eternity does not have the highest damage. She really relies on having the beast content for her to excel, because she counters beast naturally. But if you do not take her to a content whereby she has the 30% damage reflectors, you're going to notice that her damage is really not that high, which also means that a lot of current day hyper carries can out carry her or even match her level, so there is no need for you to have her. So I think Eternity is not needed at all. Of course, when it comes to future rates, right, she is also decent, I guess, with the Marsh rate, but she's not able to bring you the highest rating for sure. If you are more casual, you think that you are not going for the absolute highest, you just want to kind of go by the rates, you want to get maybe A rank, you want to get S rank, potentially you can go for Eternity if you do not have any mineral type carries such as Pickles, such as future you don't plan to pull for Black Dwarf, you can go for her. But any other carry can pretty much replace her role. I don't think she is that much needed anymore. Once upon a time, she is favored for her solo capabilities, but these days the content is already quite difficult. I don't think she's able to solo that much unless you're super heavily invested, which I do not recommend. So Eternity, not as good of a choice. So these are my recommendations. Most people would probably pick Centurion. If you really lack nothing, you would probably go with Centurion. If you lack healers, you will go with Medicine Pocket. If you're focused on rates, I would still pick Centurion because none of them are exactly the best at rates. Medicine Pocket might be a bit better compared to Centurion if you really talk about rate specific. But in 1.4 itself, there is a boss that require or would favor beast type DPS. So you kind of want Centurion over Medicine Pocket either way. So this is just up to your own personal take based on the criteria that I have laid out. So this is Pool 2. Next is going to be Pool 3. So Pool 3 over here also have 4 units, but I immediately eliminate one player, which is Lilia. Lilia in current day context is not that good. I wouldn't say she is absolute worst, but she is not that good, especially if you have 2 fairy. The reason why people don't use Lilia as much or in the future is going to use her more as a support when she's blatantly listed as DPS is because her DPS is really mediocre if everyone else have the ability to crit, which is what 2 fairy kind of brings to the table. So since 2 fairy already brought the crit mechanic up to stage for the rest of the units, her advantage diminishes, and you might want to say that you are going to build her for maybe a non-crit build with the resonance, but the fact is her base stats is a piece of trash because it is already factored in her advantage whereby she can crit most of the time. So crit damage is usually higher, which is why they have to lower her stats to balance her out. With that balanced state, if everyone else also managed to crit, she's at a disadvantage. Not worth investing in, also not worth pulling, and not worth selecting in my honest opinion. I cannot really recommend anyone to have her when you look at other units that are below right here. So the second unit we're going to touch on is going to be Regulus, which is much more superior as a hyper carry or as a sub DPS compared to Lilia, and the reason is very simple, because unlike Lilia, her crit that is in excess of 100% can also be converted into crit damage, and crit damage is very valuable given that there are limited sources of crit damage. Hence, you definitely want to go for Regulus over Lilia. In fact, I would say all scenarios, if you want to carry, might as well go for Regulus. Don't bother with Lilia, okay? So over here you can see why Regulus is so good in the future. You also see her really potent in Sea Serpent raids as well. And the good thing about her is that she have this Restless Heart mechanic, whereby if she does not act, she will enter Restless Heart, which implies that her optimal choice of play is going to be one whereby she does not act as much. Excess action points can be diverted to other carries so that they are able to bring up the overall DPS of the team. So this is why I think that Regulus over Lilia, and also Regulus being very AP generous, is a very great thing. Of course, you can think of her also when it comes to sustain standpoint. Her dodging any non-ultimates attack is going to be very good for the team if you know how to play around it, which is not difficult. And also her damage multipliers are not the lowest, right? Quite decent already when you think about it. And the AoE for the mass attack itself, although on the lower end, is going to be boosted up by the fact that with crit damage, it's going to be a lot of damage. So this is also why I think that Regulus is one of the top choices when it comes to this pool. Next one is going to be Voyager. So for Voyager itself, her role is more niche. If you are thinking of really a beginner account, if you only have a beginner account, I will highly recommend you to skip choosing Voyager. Don't choose Voyager, because if you need a carry Star Afflectus, you can go with Regulus. Voyager really plays more of a sub DPS of a supporting role, but she is extremely good at the supporting role. So if you already have all your cards laid out, you already have all your team built up, Voyager can be that good thing, because Voyager in the future also is quite good for Sea Serpent raid, especially because of her Genesis attack or Genesis damage when it comes to a counter factor, Interstellar Blessing over here. And she also brings about sturdiness, so overall sustainability of your team will increase. And given the fact that in the future raid is going to be quite difficult, so you definitely want to have sturdiness compared to like the content right now, which is honestly not exactly the most difficult. But if you're a beginner account also, she can definitely help you with sturdiness, but a good hyper carry like Regulus is going to be better as compared to a unit like Voyager, unless you already have your box planned out. So this is my thoughts on Voyager. Extremely good, but a luxury for that. So lastly, we have A Knight, and for A Knight himself, I think that he is a extremely strong AoE carry, but also have a lot of the single target aspects when it comes to his skill, and the fact that his AoE, right, deals generally higher damage than other users, given the fact that he has an I3 penetration. So if you are just starting and you have A Knight, you might not think of anything of A Knight. If you really follow my recommendations and you actually go for A Knight, you might think, hey, A Knight not very strong after using him. But the true unlocking factor is going to be I3. Once you have I3, for every 20% HP loss, you are going to deal damage with additional penetration rate. And penetration rate is a very important stat, as similar to defense debuff. So I think that this is something that people really underlook, especially beginners whereby they only have I2. They really underrate A Knight a lot. But once you go to I3, you will know what A Knight is made of. And most notably, he's going to be a universally good character because of the fact that Spirit Afflectus is not countered by any of the Afflectuses. Hence, he would be able to fill in for any content from a Afflectus standpoint. However, one thing that I would like you guys to consider when picking A Knight in this pool is if you already have Changling. Similarly, I think Changling fulfills a similar role to A Knight. I'm using A Knight to replace Changling in that sense. So it's quite kind of interchangeable if you think about it. So if you already have Changling, then I don't think that you need A Knight as desperately compared to the other of the users over here, the star users over here. And also, A Knight isn't exactly the best when it comes to raid content. He is good for raid content, don't get me wrong, but specifically for Sea Serpent itself, I think that the Star Afflectus ones, given that Sea Serpent raid is a very restrictive raid whereby a specific team is going to be needed for you to achieve the highest damage, I think that picking these two units, right, over A Knight with Changling in mind, right, is what you're going to go for if you have really a focus on raids. If you do not care about raids at all, you just want to clear normal content, you are super casual, I would recommend A Knight over anything. So that is my recommendations for this pool with these criteria in mind. Now, of course, before I end this video, I'd just like to wish everyone a happy holiday, happy new year. I hope that the next year time I will still be able to bring you guys good content that you guys want to watch, and also your gacha luck if you are still playing gacha games in 2024 would also be great. And lastly, if you really want to check out how to clear U2, I'll definitely recommend my video over here. Click over there. I'll see you guys over there. This is Corky Gachas signing off.